Welcome back to our journey through literature. Last time, we navigated the increasingly turbulent world of Macbeth in Act 4. We saw Macbeth's reign descend further into tyranny, a rule really marked by paranoia and just constant bloodshed.
Hmm.
We saw his desperate consultation with the Weald sisters, who offered those famously ambiguous, seemingly comforting
Right.
prophecies.
It doesn't sound like guarantees,
Exactly. That no man of woman born could harm him, and that he wouldn't be vanquished until Burnham Wood actually moved to Dunsinane Castle.
which sounds impossible, of course.
Completely. We also saw Macduff's flight to England to join Malcolm, and then, well, the truly horrifying slaughter of Macduff's innocent family.
A really brutal low point.
It was a brutal act that chillingly galvanized the forces of righteousness and, I think, crucially, personal vengeance against Macbeth.
Indeed. Act 4 was definitely all about those forces of opposition gathering steam, wasn't it? You felt that slow, inexorable turning of the tide against the usurper. The evil Macbeth has sown, particularly through just the escalating violence of his reign. It really began to bear its bitter fruit.
Yeah.
And we saw this not just externally, in the form of rebellion, but also, as we kind of anticipated, in the profound psychological torment that was already starting to surface for both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth.
And that brings us perfectly to today's focus, Act 5. This is it. The dramatic culmination of the entire play, the final brutal crescendo.
The end game.
The endgame, exactly. This act functions as the denouement, the unraveling, the ultimate resolution of the central conflict. All those carefully woven threads we've explored throughout the play, the witch's deceptive prophecies, the consuming ambition, that creeping corrosive guilt, and the gathering rebellion, they're finally pulled together to their inevitable and frankly quite bloody conclusion. It's where the bill for all their treachery and unchecked ambition finally comes due. The final reckoning.
That's absolutely right. And the denouement in a tragedy like Macbeth, it isn't just about tying up loose ends neatly. It's really about revealing the ultimate, often tragic fate of the characters. It's about exposing hidden truths that were maybe once obscured and restoring a sense of moral and cosmic order, although often only after immense chaos and suffering.
Yeah, the damage is done, but order needs to return.
Exactly. So as we journey through Act 5, we'll see how the characters, especially Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, are completely transformed, broken even by the sheer weight and really the inescapable consequences of their deeds.
So let's unpack this unraveling, starting with Act 5, Scene 1, the unbearable weight of guilt. This scene opens in Macbeth's castle at Dunsinane, deep in the dead of night, and we're immediately plunged into this deeply disturbing, almost voyeuristic moment.
We really are. We're introduced to a doctor and a gentlewoman, and they're observing Lady Macbeth. They tell us she's been sleepwalking, describing it as a great perturbation in nature.
Perturbation in nature, that phrase really leaps out.
It does. It's incredibly significant because it immediately signals a profound internal disturbance. It's not just, a physical affliction. It's a disruption of her very being, the direct result of her unnatural acts. This scene marks the beginning of the end for Lady Macbeth, and by extension, for the Macbeths as a unit. It functions as this stark, chilling revelation of her inner decay, moving the play squarely into its falling action and towards that final resolution.
What a complete reversal from the formidable, almost terrifying woman we knew earlier in the play.
Isn't it just?
Lady Macbeth, once that iron-willed instigator, the one who famously called on evil spirits to unsex her and declared what's done is done with such chilling resolve, now she's a fragile, tormented figure. What do you think is the key to understanding this profound psychological shift?
Well, her transformation is, I think, one of the most compelling and truly tragic character arcs in all of Shakespeare. Her inner turmoil, which she so ruthlessly suppressed earlier and encouraged Macbeth to suppress too.
Right. Screw your courage to the sticking place.
Exactly. That turmoil has now burst forth uncontrollably. It manifests outwardly in her sleepwalking, this desperate, compulsive hand-rubbing, as if she's trying to wash away imaginary bloodstains.
The damn spot.
Precisely. And this isn't just a nervous ache. It's a powerful, almost desperate symbol of her overwhelming guilt and remorse. Her eyes are open, the gentlewoman says, but their senses are shut, which perfectly reflects a mind that is awake to its horrors, perpetually replaying them, but completely closed off from conscious, rational reality. Her waking self could deny it all but her sleeping self. It reveals the horrifying truth.
And it's in this delirious state that she starts spilling the secrets of their reign. Her fragmented utterances are absolutely chilling, aren't they?
They are.
We hear her agonizing over Duncan's murder. Yet here's a spot! Out, damn spot, out, I say! But her guilt isn't just confined to that initial act, is it?
Not at all. She references Banquo's assassination. Banquo's buried. He cannot comment on Indusker's grave. And even the horrifying, more recent murder of Macduff's innocent family. Quote, "The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where's she now?"
Wow.
And what's truly fascinating here is the scope of her subconscious guilt. Well, she wasn't directly involved in the murders of Banquo or Macduff's family. Those were, Macbeth's solo operations by then.
Right.
Her subconscious mind unequivocally connects them all back to the original sin, the murder of Duncan. It demonstrates how one evil act just spirals into a chain of others. And for her, the guilt is cumulative. It's like this heavy, suffocating blanket she can't throw off.
Yeah.
Her desperation is just palpable in that iconic line, "Out, damn spot, out, I say." Such a powerful imperative, this frantic, futile desire for cleansing, for peace, which is now completely impossible to achieve. And it echoes Macbeth's own struggle, remember back in Act 2, Scene 2, with the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red.
Yes, the bloody hand.
But where his was perhaps a moment of immediate horror, hers is this sustained, tormenting obsession. Both are stained, irrevocably stained, but in profoundly different ways now.
And the irony is just dripping from her words. Remember how she told Macbeth what's done is done after Duncan's murder, just urging him to move past it?
Dismissively almost.
Now, in her torment, she moans, "What's done cannot be undone." It's just a complete and total unraveling of her earlier stoic resolve.
That line, "What's done cannot be undone," it's such a truly tragic pronouncement of irreversible consequences. It's a stark, biting, ironic contradiction of her earlier, almost dismissive assertion to Macbeth. It highlights so powerfully how the consequences of evil deeds are inescapable. They can't be simply willed away or washed clean. The past, for Lady Macbeth, isn't just prologue. It's a living, haunting presence.
Constantly replaying.
Constantly. And her cry, "Hell is murky." It feels like she's projecting her internal landscape of guilt outward, revealing the actual darkness she now inhabits. A darkness, remember, she herself initially invoked to aid their crimes back in Act 1.
She called for it.
She did. And that chilling detail about Duncan, yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? It not only underscores the brutal reality of their crime, but also perhaps her own shock and lingering psychological trauma at its sheer enormity. It's as if she finally comprehends the true human cost of what they did, maybe for the first time.
It's a total mental and emotional breakdown, really. And that symbolism of light, too. The gentlewoman notes she has light by her continually. Why is that significant, do you think?
Oh, it's hugely significant. It's a profound symbolic reversal. In Act 1, Scene 5, Lady Macbeth famously called upon thick night and the dunnest smoke of hell to hide their deeds.
Yeah, she embraced the darkness.
She absolutely did. She embraced darkness as an accomplice. Now she demands light, continually. It symbolizes her desperate fear of the very darkness and evils she once invoked. It's a futile attempt, really, to ward off the encroaching psychological shadows that haunt her waking nightmares. It's as if she believes light can somehow cleanse or protect her.
But it can't reach the internal darkness.
Exactly. And the dramatic irony is just thick throughout this scene. We, the audience, know the full extent of the Macbeth's crimes, while the doctor and gentlewoman are only now piecing together the horrifying truth from Lady Macbeth's delirium. This makes their observations and her revelations even more chilling and tragic for us. We see the truth literally emerge from the depths of her tortured mind.
So, beyond just the obvious horror of it, what does Lady Macbeth's suffering in this scene reveal about the nature of guilt itself, maybe in Shakespeare's view?
Well, I think it reveals that guilt isn't merely a moral failing or a pang of conscience. It's a destructive psychological force. It's like a poison that, left unchecked, will consume the individual from within, regardless of any external power or success they might achieve. Lady Macbeth's madness and suffering demonstrate unequivocally that evil actions inevitably lead to internal torment. It's a form of psychological justice being meted out to her, even while Macbeth still wields power externally. Her internal state is completely unraveling even as his external power is being challenged.
That's a great point.
And it also perfectly encapsulates that key theme of appearance versus reality. The once composed, iron-willed queen, that public facade of a ruthless conspirator, now appears as this broken, babbling woman. Her carefully constructed persona is utterly shattered by the devastating reality of her internal suffering. Her madness, in a way, is the ultimate undeniable truth being revealed.
Okay, so as we witness Lady Macbeth's mind unraveling under the weight of her conscience, it's critical to remember, as you said, that this internal decay is mirrored by an equally powerful external shift.
Right.
Outside the castle walls, Scotland itself is stirring from its nightmare. We transition now to Act 5, Scene 2, The Gathering Storm. Here we see Scottish nobleman Menteith, Caithness, Angus, Lennox meeting near Burnham Wood, preparing to join Malcolm Macduff and the English forces. What's the strategic and symbolic significance of this gathering?
This scene provides really crucial exposition about the rebellion's progress and, critically, Macbeth's increasingly isolated state. Structurally, it functions as a central rising action for the final confrontation. It's dramatically setting the stage for the literal movement of Burnham Wood, which we know from the prophecies is a absolutely pivotal moment in Macbeth's fate.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond the mere plot mechanics, it's about the reclamation of Scotland. These are Scottish lords, people loyal to their land, not necessarily to the tyrant who happens to be ruling it. They represent the heart of Scotland turning against him.
And the character development here, or rather the stark decline of Macbeth's standing, is just palpable through their dialogue. The shifting loyalties are very, very clear.
Absolutely.
The nobles speak of Macbeth with utter disdain, calling him the tyrant. They note that his men move only in command, nothing in love. How does this reveal the true state of his reign at this point?
It reveals the complete erosion of any respect or loyalty he might have once commanded. People no longer follow him out of admiration or duty, or even that kind of genuine fear that inspires obedience. They follow out of sheer compulsion, because they're forced to.
Empty obedience.
Empty obedience, exactly. It's a hollow reign built on terror, and the foundation is just crumbling beneath him. The Scottish people, even those who might have once served him, now see him for what he is, a usurper, a disease upon the land. This scene powerfully establishes the moral clarity of the conflict. It delineates a clear alignment of the good forces. You've got Malcolm, Macduff, Seward, and now these Scottish lords, against the evil Macbeth. The rebellion itself feels like a force of justice rising to reclaim Scotland from tyranny.
And then Angus delivers one of the most powerful lines in the play, I think. A striking metaphor that perfectly encapsulates Macbeth's kingship. Now does he feel his title hang loose about him, like a giant's robe upon a dwarfish thief.
Wow, that imagery is so vivid. Could you unpack what exactly Shakespeare is conveying about Macbeth's reign with such a powerful visual? Oh, it's just brilliant. This isn't just vivid imagery. It's a profound political and moral statement packed to a few words. The giant's robe speaks to the inherent grandeur, the dignity, the legitimate weight of the monarchy itself, the institution of kingship.
The office itself?
The office itself, yes. But Macbeth, the dwarfish thief, is simply too morally and perhaps even spiritually small to fill it. He sees the crown through violence, through theft, but he lacks the true stature, the grace, the legitimacy to wear it properly. The robe hangs loose about him because it doesn't fit. He hasn't grown into the role, nor can he. It visually represents the external perception of him as this grotesque, ill-fitting, illegitimate figure, and perhaps even hints at his own internal discomfort with a role he violently seized but cannot truly embody.
Like an imposter.
It's exactly like an imposter. It speaks volumes about the theme of the legitimacy of power. Macbeth lacks true claim and popular support, contrasting sharply with the natural fit of a true, just king, like Malcolm is presented as being, who would wear that robe with natural authority. This metaphor is a really concentrated critique of tyranny itself. It might seize the outward trappings of power, the title, the castle, but it can never genuinely inhabit the inherent moral authority of true kingship.
So while Lady Macbeth faces her internal reckoning, her husband, Macbeth, remains defiantly, almost tragically, deluded in Act 5, Scene 3, Macbeth's delusional defiance. He's in Dunsinane Castle, and he's still clinging desperately to those witches' prophecies, despite all the evidence mounting against him.
He absolutely is. He dismisses reports of desertion, clinging fiercely to the prophecies, till Burnham Wood removed to Dunsinane, I cannot taint with fear. What's the boy, Malcolm? Was he not born of woman? This scene is so critical because it reinforces Macbeth's tragic flaw, his blind, almost willful trust in the literal interpretation of these ambiguous prophecies. He's completely misreading the nature of the juggling fiends, as he'll later call them.
He hears what he wants to hear.
Precisely. This fatal overconfidence, this selective blindness to the actual danger he's in, is exactly what is setting him up for that profound dramatic irony later. He's building his false sense of security on absolute quicksand.
He projects this facade of invincibility, right? Relying solely on those prophecies, believing himself immune to fear and defeat. But beneath that bluster, that aggression, a deep weariness, almost a nihilism starts to emerge, doesn't it?
Yes.
What does his famous soliloquy here reveal about his inner state?
Yes, that's absolutely crucial to understanding him at this point. He says, I have lived long enough. My way of life has fallen into the sear, the yellow leaf. It's this profound soliloquy where he recognizes the bitter, empty fruit of his ambition. He has attained ultimate power, the crown, but at what cost? He has no peace, no honor, love, obedience, troops of friends. He laments that he has only curses, not loud but deep, mouth honor, breath, highlighting the utter emptiness of his reign and his, frankly, spiritual bankruptcy.
It's all hollow.
It's all hollow. He craves the very things that give life meaning, the things he has forfeited through his crimes. This isn't really remorse for his actions, you notice, but a desolate awareness of the wasteland his life and reign had become. He is a king, but utterly alone and unloved.
And then there's that almost tragically ironic moment where he demands his armor, shouts at his servants, and then turns to the doctor, asking him to cure Lady Macbeth's mind-diseased and, almost as an afterthought, Scotland's disease.
Oh, it's devastatingly ironic, isn't it? Because he is the source of both illnesses. His inability to recognize this highlights his profound moral blindness and his continued self-delusion. His plea, "Canst thou not minister to a mind disease, pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow?" It reveals, I think, a hidden awareness of the terrible psychological damage wrought by their actions, even as he fails to recognize that he is the primary cause, the root of the sorrow.
Yeah, he can see the symptom, but not the cause in himself.
Exactly. He even unwittingly describes what Scotland needs. "If thou couldst purge it to a sound and pristine health, I would applaud thee." Which is, of course, his own removal from power. The dramatic irony here is immense. Macbeth believes he is safe because of the prophecies, while we, the audience, know their deceptive nature and are just waiting to see how they will ultimately be fulfilled, often through his own unwitting actions. He sees the disease, but cannot see that he is the pathogen.
So this scene really brings to the forefront that theme of fate versus free will, doesn't it? Macbeth's misinterpretation of the prophecies, his choice to cling to them rather than face reality, seems to actively drive him towards his doom.
It absolutely does. His fatal misinterpretation of the prophecies and his choice to rely on them rather than face reality, or, heaven forbid, repent, lead him down this path. He believes he is destined, protected, which ironically blinds him to the actual threats gathering outside his walls. And while he expresses no direct remorse for his murders, his despair, and his sort of detached concern for Lady Macbeth, they do hint at the internal corrosion that his evil deeds have caused. His inability to find a cure for their mental anguish or for Scotland's suffering underscores the play's message about the pervasive and destructive nature of evil and how it contaminates everything it touches.
Yeah.
And his confidence, that outward show of bravado, it's a false appearance. The reality is his kingdom is crumbling, his wife is dying, and his life is utterly empty, just a facade over a void.
Now, for a truly pivotal moment, one that directly addresses one of those deceptive prophecies. Act 5, Scene 4. Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. This is where Malcolm makes his move, and it's a moment of real strategic brilliance.
Yes, this is the scene where Malcolm, Seward, and Macduff lead their combined forces, and Malcolm, displaying true leadership and, frankly, cunning, orders each soldier to cut down a bough from Birnam Wood and carry it before him. Now, this isn't just a clever strategic move to obscure their numbers from Macbeth's scouts. It directly fulfills the first prophecy's deceptive meaning, dramatically moving the plot towards its climax. It's a really striking example of human ingenuity subverting what seemed like a supernatural or impossible condition.
So the prophecy of Birnam Wood moving to Dunsinane isn't some fantastical supernatural event after all, but a clever, grounded military tactic. Malcolm says, "Let every soldier hew him down a bough and bear it before him. Thereby shall we shadow the numbers of our host and make discovery err in report of us."
What does this tell us about the witch's power? Or perhaps the limits of it? I think it tells us a lot. This is a prime example of dramatic irony at play. We, the audience, now clearly see how the prophecy will be fulfilled through human action and strategic thinking, while Macbeth, still clinging to his rigid, literal interpretation, remains blissfully ignorant inside his castle. It's a powerful moment where human ingenuity and strategic free will orchestrate the fulfillment of what seemed like an impossible fate. It's also, I think, an intriguing subversion of that fair is foul motif that has haunted the entire play.
Oh, so.
Well, here, a fair strategy, a good, clever military tactic by the rightful forces, appears foul to Macbeth, like a supernatural, terrifying event, the woods literally moving. It turns the very tools of deception and ambiguous appearance back on the deceiver himself.
Ah, that's clever.
It implies that the witch's prophecies don't force events to happen through magic, but rather they predict possibilities that are brought about by human choices and actions. Their power lies not in direct magical intervention, perhaps, but in equivocation, in words that can be interpreted in multiple, often misleading ways. This scene massively heightens the tension, knowing that Macbeth is living in this false sense of security that is just about to be shattered by something entirely mundane, yet prophetically significant.
Which brings us to Act 5, Scene 5, The Candle Goes Out. This is a scene of profound emotional and philosophical weight for Macbeth, starting with a moment that could have been deeply impactful, but for him seems almost, well, almost an aside.
It is incredibly stark. Macbeth hears a cry of women from offstage, which quickly turns out to be for Lady Macbeth's death. We later learn it's likely suicide. His reaction is just strikingly detached, almost cold. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word.
It's chillingly dismissive.
It is. It reveals his profound emotional desensitization, likely a result of his brutal reign, his isolation, and his complete absorption in the impending battle. He's so divorced from normal human connection at this point that his wife's death registers almost as an inconvenience, a distraction from the larger military conflict. It highlights the complete breakdown of their once powerful, albeit incredibly dark, bond. The ambitious couple, once so united in their terrible purpose, are now utterly isolated, each consumed by their own unique torment, hers ending in death, his in despair.
And then right after that chilling reaction, we get to the heart of it. His famous tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow soliloquy. What exactly is he grappling with here? This is maybe the most famous speech in the play.
It really is, and for good reason. This soliloquy is a profound expression of his utter nihilism and despair. Stripped of love, honor, true purpose, everything he thought power would bring, Macbeth now sees life itself as completely meaningless.
Yeah.
He describes it as a walking shadow, a transient, insubstantial thing. He calls it a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. This metaphor of life as a, brief, insignificant theatrical performance where an actor makes a grand but ultimately meaningless display before disappearing forever perfectly captures his sense of utter futility. His life, he concludes, is nothing more than a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This reveals his complete moral and spiritual bankruptcy, stripped of all purpose beyond mere animal survival now. The image of out, brief candle symbolizes life as this fragile, flickering flame, easily extinguished, reflecting perhaps both his profound weariness and the sudden extinguishing of Lady Macbeth's life moments before. This soliloquy isn't really about remorse for his crimes, you'll notice. It's an existential crisis. It's a man facing the ultimate emptiness of a life lived without any moral compass.
But the scene isn't over yet. Amidst this profound, nihilistic despair, a messenger rushes and reports that Birnam Wood appears to be moving towards Dunsinane.
And this is the moment of terrifying, brutal clarity for Macbeth. His false sense of security, built entirely on the witch's ambiguous words, shatters completely. He finally understands the witch's equivocation, how their words, though literally true in a way, were designed specifically to mislead and trap him.
The penny drops.
The penny drops, hard. His fear, which he claimed earlier could not taint him, returns with an absolute vengeance. I pull in resolution, he says, and begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. He realizes there is nor flying hence nor tarrying here. He's trapped, caught in the very net woven by the prophecies he trusted so blindly. This is his psychological climax, the definitive confirmation of the unraveling of his false security. The dramatic irony here is at its absolute peak. The audience has known this was coming, maybe how it would happen, but for Macbeth, it's a devastating revelation at the absolute brink of his demise. He finally understands the trick, just as it's far too late to escape.
So thematically, Lady Macbeth's implied suicide is the ultimate consequence of guilt. What about Macbeth's soliloquy and his sudden realization here? How do they tie in?
Well, Macbeth's soliloquy is the mental and spiritual consequence of his reign, isn't it? It's his descent into utter existential despair. It's the psychological reckoning of a tyrant who finds he has nothing left. The witch's prophecies are finally, definitively revealed as deceitful despite their literal truth, exposing the ultimate reality of Macbeth's doomed fate, completely shattering his carefully constructed appearance of invincibility. And again, his own free will, his actions and choices, his blind trust and willful misinterpretation have led him directly to this moment of despair, directly fulfilling the witch's predictions through his own choices. It's that complex interplay of fate and free will again, where fate is revealed not as some inescapable external decree, but perhaps as a path chosen, however misguidedly, through free will.
Okay, the stage is now absolutely set for the final showdown. Act 5, Scene 6, the full advance. The scene is short, but what critical shift does it represent?
This scene, though brief, is immensely powerful in its symbolism. Malcolm, Seward, and Macduff order their soldiers to drop the camouflage boughs, revealing the full, formidable strength of their army right before Dunsinane. Trumpets sound, signaling the direct assault. This isn't merely a tactical shift, it's the physical manifestation of the forces of order converging on chaos. Malcolm, Seward, Macduff, they are just leading an army, they represent the collective will of Scotland, and England's support rising to reclaim its destiny.
Reveal.
The reveal, exactly. The shedding of the camouflage boughs here is hugely symbolic. It's the moment deception is thrown off, and the true righteous power of the rebellion is revealed for all to see. It's the ultimate reversal of Macbeth's fair is foul world. Now, what is truly fair, the good army, sheds its foul appearance, the moving woods, to defeat actual foulness, Macbeth's tyranny. The trumpets sounding aren't just a military signal. They feel like the ominous sound of an old corrupted order collapsing, and a new legitimate one announcing its forceful arrival. It truly signifies the final decisive push towards the resolution. No more hiding.
And then we have Act 5, Scene 7, Macbeth's desperate fight. The battle is now raging furiously outside Dunsinane. What kind of fighter is Macbeth at this point? Is he still the brave warrior from the start of the play?
Well, he's certainly fighting, but the nature of his courage has changed, I think. Macbeth, now completely isolated, fights with a desperate, almost animalistic fury. He declares, "They have tied me to a stake I cannot fly, but bear-like, I must fight the course."
That's a powerful image.
It is. This vivid metaphor compares him to a bear in a brutal bear-baiting contest, highlighting his desperate, savage determination to fight to the death simply because escape is impossible. He knows he's trapped, cornered, but he will not yield easily. He's driven now not by loyalty or noble courage, but by a kind of fatalistic resolve, still desperately clinging to that last prophecy, no man of woman born. When he encounters and kills young Seward's son, it tragically reinforces this false belief in his invincibility, feeding his delusion for just a few more desperate moments.
A false confirmation.
Exactly. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos of battle, Macduff enters, single-mindedly searching only for Macbeth. He isn't interested in fighting anyone else. His vengeance is singularly focused on the man who slaughtered his family. This scene builds incredible tension towards that final, inevitable combat, isolating Macbeth further and showing the shifting tide of the battle, as we hear many of Macbeth's own soldiers are defecting or fighting without heart, reflecting the moral bankruptcy of his rule.
It's the ultimate clash of good versus evil playing out in individual combat, isn't it? What makes Macbeth's continued misinterpretation of the prophecy so potent here, right before the end?
Precisely. And Macbeth's continued misinterpretation and reliance on that final prophecy, even as the walls are literally closing in on him, demonstrates how his own stubbornness and his tragic flaw are sealing his doom. It connects right back to the fate versus free will theme. He's so invested in this one literal interpretation, this one supposed guarantee, that he can't see the deadly loophole, the truth that's coming for him. His fight is a last, desperate, but ultimately futile act of defiance against a destiny he actively helped create. He believes he has a charmed life, but that charm is about to be violently, definitively broken.
The moment of truth arrives in Act 5, Scene 8, the prophecy fulfilled. Macbeth and Macduff finally confront each other, and it's here that all the threads of fate, free will, deception, and vengeance converge.
This is truly the play's ultimate climax, and the definitive resolution of the central conflict. It delivers profound poetic justice. When they finally meet, Macbeth initially hesitates to fight Macduff. He says remarkably, "Of all men else I have avoided thee, but get thee back. My soul is too much charged with blood of thine already."
Wow, that's unexpected. A flicker of conscience.
It's a crucial line, isn't it? It's one of the only moments in the entire play where Macbeth seems to acknowledge the sheer weight of his crimes, particularly the innocent slaughter of Macduff's family. It indicates, perhaps, a flicker of conscience, a rare moment of regret, or maybe just saturation with guilt, right before his final battle. He's not fighting with righteous fury, but with a weary, almost resigned desperation.
But then Macduff delivers the devastating revelation that completely shatters Macbeth's last shred of confidence. What's that precise line, and why is it so utterly impactful?
Yes, Macduff reveals the truth that breaks the charm. He tells Macbeth to despair of his charm and let the angel whom he still serves tell him Macduff was from his mother's womb, untimely ripped.
Untimely rip, cesarean section.
Exactly. He was born by cesarean section, and thus not of woman born in the conventional natural sense that Macbeth had so desperately clung to. This utterly devastating revelation shatters Macbeth's last shred of confidence. His belief in his invincibility completely collapses. It leads to this profound moment of despair as he finally understands the full extent of the witch's juggling fiend's trickery. He sees how they palter with us in a double sense, keeping the word of promise to the ear but breaking it to the hope. The prophecy was literally true, but deceptively worded, designed to lead him to a false sense of security right up until this fatal moment.
The ultimate twist.
The ultimate twist. This is the ultimate and most devastating instance of dramatic irony, as Macbeth finally learns the true, terrifying meaning of the prophecy at the precise moment of his death, when it is far, far too late to change his fate.
Even facing certain doom now, knowing the charm is broken, Macbeth still refuses to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet. He chooses to fight to the death. What does that final act tell us about his character?
Despite understanding his doom, Macbeth maintains a kind of tragic, defiant dignity, maybe even arrogance in defeat. He chooses to fight to the death rather than surrender and be paraded as a spectacle for the rabble's curse. This refusal to yield, it speaks to the inherent pride and even a twisted form of courage that has always been part of his character right from the start when he was Bellona's bridegroom. He's a monster, yes, but a defiant one to the very end. And Macduff, driven by profound grief and that burning desire for vengeance for his slaughtered wife and children, becomes the instrument of both divine and earthly justice. He completes his arc as the Avenger, fulfilling his role by killing Macbeth and then, in a grim but symbolically necessary act, decapitating him. This scene brings a definitive triumph of good over evil and a complete stripping away of Macbeth's false appearance of security and charmed life. It also powerfully demonstrates that complex interplay of fate and free will. Macbeth's belief in an unchangeable fate shaped by the prophecies led him to act, and his actions then brought about the very circumstances of his fated downfall. His choices, however misguided, tragically actualized the prophecy.
Finally, we reach Act 5, Scene 9, order restored. The chaos ends, the battle is won, and a new era hopefully begins for Scotland. What does this final scene resolve?
Malcolm, Sigurd Ross, and the other nobles gather, and the news of the battle's outcome is delivered. There's that poignant, almost understated moment where old Sigurd receives the news of his son's honorable death. He asks with stoic pride, had he his hurts before? Meaning, on his front, facing the enemy. When told, yes, I on the front, Sigurd declares, why then God's soldier be he. Had I as many sons as I have hairs, I would not wish them to a fairer death.
Wow, that highlights a completely different value system.
It absolutely does. It highlights a value system of honor, courage, and selfless sacrifice for a greater cause, contrasting sharply with Macbeth's nihilism and self-serving ambition. It shows the true spirit of a noble warrior, accepting loss with dignity for the sake of the kingdom. Then Macduff enters, carrying Macbeth's severed head, a grisly, but in that context, ultimately necessary symbol of tyranny's final end. He declares, hail, king, for so thou art. Behold where stands the usurper's cursed head. The time is free.
The time is free. That's powerful.
It is. A powerful, visceral image of triumph and the breaking of tyranny's hold. The time is free signifies Scotland's liberation from Macbeth's oppressive, unnatural reign. The air has finally been cleared. The natural order can reassert itself.
And Malcolm steps immediately into his rightful place as king. What kind of leader does he immediately prove to be, and how does this signal the restoration of order?
Indeed, Malcolm is hailed as the new King of Scotland. Hail, King of Scotland. And he immediately demonstrates sound, wise, and benevolent leadership, a stark contrast to Macbeth's paranoid and destructive rule. He acknowledges the losses, showing empathy. He promises to reward loyal thanes by making them earls, importantly the first earls that Scotland had ever known, signaling a new era and perhaps a new hierarchy based on merit and loyalty, not just birth or terror.
A fresh start.
A fresh start. He invites exiles to return, signaling a return to unity and reconciliation for the nation. And he vows to call to account Macbeth's cruel ministers, demonstrating justice. Lady Macbeth's suicide, by self and violent hands, took off her life, is confirmed, completing her tragic arc with a chilling finality. Malcolm then invites everyone to Scone for his coronation, a final symbolic act of restoration to legitimacy and tradition. Thematically, this scene is the explicit triumph of justice, with the usurper dead and the rightful king crowned, and the clear promise of restoring social and political order.
Yeah.
It's the final victory of the forces of good over evil, ushering in what everyone hopes will be an era of peace and stability. The world, once turned completely upside down where fair is foul and foul is fair, returns to a state where good is good and order is restored from chaos, culminating in a clear day for Scotland, as Malcolm promises.
So to summarize Act 5's profound contributions, it serves as the definitive denouement of Macbeth, bringing Macbeth's reign of terror to a decisive, bloody end. It fully develops the thematic arc of guilt and its consequences through Lady Macbeth's agonizing sleepwalking and implied suicide, and Macbeth's own profound existential despair.
Absolutely.
It climactically resolves the tension between fate and free will by showing how the witch's equivocal prophecies are fulfilled not by magic alone, but through the conscious choices and, crucially, the actions of others, ironically leading Macbeth directly to his doom.
Yeah, the interaction is key.
The act vividly portrays the triumph of justice and good over evil, culminating in Macbeth's downfall at the hand of Macduff, the wronged avenger, and Malcolm's rightful ascension, ultimately restoring the natural order to Scotland. The play concludes with a powerful sense of catharsis as the monstrous tyranny is overthrown and a clear path to healing and stability is forged for a scarred, but now hopefully free, Scotland.
And as we close the curtain on Macbeth's tragic tale, we're left to ponder the nature of enduring knowledge, aren't we? We've seen how ambition can corrupt the soul, how guilt can consume the mind, and how the seeds of destiny might only sprout through our own decisions, or indeed our fatal misinterpretations of ambiguous signs. But what does the story of Macbeth, a text penned centuries ago, continue to teach us about power, morality, and the human psyche in our own complex world today? How do we navigate the subtle deceptions of language and our own desires when the path to downfall can be paved with what seems like a promise of invincibility? It leaves you thinking.
Thank you for joining us on this literary journey. If you're nodding along, help other curious minds discover these conversations too. Press like and subscribe.